Okay, everybody, here we are. This is Vicky 3 Academy. Walker, this is We Play Games, and I want to talk today about a couple of different things. We'll probably do them as two separate videos. I think the first thing that I want to talk about is the AI. I think the AI is interesting. I think the AI is important. I think no matter so here's why I think AI is important for this game. So this is supposed to be a game, Victoria 3, that kind of acts as a simulation. This is Victoria 3 by Paradox Interactive. It acts as a simulation of the Industrial Revolution from 1836 to 1936, and it's supposed to simulate the historical forces that exist in that world. And I think in one sense it does. So the natural pull of things from an economic determinist standpoint is for initially there to be this desire for money, and for simply to economize things. So subsistence farms are not very economically productive because it's mostly a person making something and then eating it themselves or within a very small area. There's not a lot of taxable exchange going on, and so they're not productive for you as a government, and so you want to discourage peasantry. It's not that peasants are like bad people, it's just that they're not economically productive. The thing that they do, which is keep themselves alive, is not gonna make your company your government any money. And so that's why a lot of things focus on ways to build infrastructure to raise them up. So the AI, it's going to be really important because they're going to be controlling almost all of the rest of the pops at game start, right? At game start, unless you're playing in a multiplayer game, in which case the game probably plays completely differently. I bet in a multiplayer game, which I would love to start playing multiplayer Vicky 3 content at some point. So if that interests you, please let me know. I would absolutely love to do some multiplayer Vicky 3 content with some of my friends, but I don't know if that interests anybody or not. Not that it's the only thing that matters, but that, like, right now I just want to focus on getting us monetized. That's what I'm gonna focus on, and then from there we'll figure it out. But the AI is really important because it governs everything, right? Even if you're Ching, you still do not have most of the pops in the world. There's 365 million, and that's an awful lot, and it's a lot closer than half than like France is, but it's still not even really particularly close. And so most of the pops, and therefore most of the demand, and therefore most of the market prices, which go check out the market video if you haven't seen that, most of the market prices, at least at game start, are going to be determined by the actions of the AI. And so how the AI behaves is incredibly important. And so what we have been told from Paradox is that the AI is programmed based off of these strategies, because they've contended, and I don't disagree with them, that if the AI just purely plays deterministically trying to win every single time, it's going to play in a very static way, which is going to be very boring. It's also going to be pretty inflexible in terms of its ability to respond to weird situations. So that kind of AI, the AI that plays 100% deterministically, is probably not very strong. So what they've done is they've given these three strategies, and so that we don't really know how those three strategies work. However, they're supposed to, between the three of them, build an attitude kind of for the AI, and that attitude is supposed to like represent a combination of different forces, whether or not it's the nature of the IG that the ruler supports, or the IGs in the government, or the laws. I don't know the inputs for these things because I haven't looked around in the code. And I want this to also be clear in this episode. I'm talking about this not as like in an accusatory, why isn't this in game? I don't know if anything, and I mean a single thing, that I am going to say is going to make any sense to someone who has written AI code. So it's very possible that I am an idiot. If you want to know how to write AI anbeeld, I'll put a link in the video here, but he wrote the AI for the leak version, and apparently has written a very strong economic AI for this game. And I might try playing that, or I might try watching it and observing it, because maybe that's what I'll do. I'll download it and I'll observe it and see how his AI behaves, because his AI is supposed to be stronger, but it's also supposed to have like very, very, very bad problems in regards to performance, which does not make me want to play on it. But I would love to see its behavior and comment on how effective it is versus the Paradox AI. But I think largely the strategy concept, I think, is a cool concept. I think it's a very cool concept, actually. So my core contention, and this is something that someone who has written AI can tell me is either possible or ridiculously impossible, and I know nothing, because I might know nothing. But my contention is that the AI that Paradox has written undervalues prestige, and that if it valued prestige more, it would behave in a way that would be both more organic and therefore create for a more fun lived-in environment, because that's kind of what the AI is there to do, right? It's to create to help in the suspension of disbelief, to help create the illusion that this is the 19th century. And in order for it to feel like it is the 19th century, the actions and the behaviors of the nations in question must feel like the logical behaviors of those countries in question, or at the very least, if they're behaving illogically, that we have a way to explain why, right? If there was like a brutal civil war and somebody came to power in Egypt, and it's doing just banana stuff like trying to declare war on the UK, at least we can like understand why it's doing that, right? We want a framework where we can look at it and say, yes, you know what? Russia has succeeded in my eyes, accomplishing what it's aiming to do, right? And the way that we would be able to assess that, I think, is by looking at what it's doing over here, and asking it, like, what is it building and why? So the very first thing that we notice is that they are building small levels of government administration everywhere. Okay, so what of these is that in support of? I have no idea what in those it is support of. I could not convince myself, even if I tried, that that was somehow like a logical thing. The reason that you would do that, by the way, mechanically, is that you want to have more bureaucrats and therefore increase the strength of the intelligentsia. So if this, rather than a conservative agenda, was a liberalizing agenda, then it would make a lot of sense, because they're trying to, if they were trying to empower the intelligentsia, then yeah, you absolutely hire a bunch of bureaucrats. But if you hire a bunch of bureaucrats just because you think you need tax capacity, and you're taxing peasants, then either the AI is not good at the game at all, or it has an agenda that makes it dumb. And if this agenda makes it so that the government doesn't understand the ramifications of its own actions, then it makes sense, right? If the conservative agenda is, I don't know, I'm gonna spend money more or less at random and just see what happens, and that worked for my grandfather, and it worked for his grandfather, and the grandfather to him before that. And if that's what this AI does, then sure. But like I have no idea, absolutely no idea why Russia would care about building these government administration buildings right now. And we talked about that in the video on construction sectors, but more or less, like at the beginning of the game, you really want to be building construction sectors as much as possible, and while also keeping the cost of your construction goods down. So Russia, don't be building government administration at the beginning of the game. You can build wood or iron, and for that matter, let's see, what else could we be doing? Agricultural investments. So we could be doing agricultural investments instead, right? Like if instead of building a bunch of government administrations that do like hand gestures and then a bunch of question marks come out. They could have been doing this, but I think if they were building this, then I would expect them to have like a resource extraction strategy like this. That would make a lot of sense. So I hope you are expanding resources, but you Russia should be expanding your agriculture. And the reason you should be expanding your agriculture is this: you're the number 3 producer on grain, right? That gives you 3 prestige. If you were the number 2 producer, you would get more prestige. Similarly, what else could Russia do to increase their prestige through food? They could try to do a push on meat. They could also probably do a push on liquor. I think might be worth it. But why am I highlighting these things? I'm highlighting these things because these are things that would be constructed by an agricultural building. And importantly, they're things that help them specialize. So if an AI can be built that would be able to observe and care about the prestige outcome of its actions, I contend that that would make for a very, very strong and very organic AI, because it would cause stuff like Russia to build some agriculture things. Probably it would build some grain to try to get to this rank number 2 in grain, unless it could determine that, hey, maybe it would be more beneficial in terms of cost to do meat. Depends on if Russia's running a grain tax or not. Russia's not running grain tax. It probably wants to run grain tax, in which case building things that you are already taxing obviously increases the money available to the government, because it creates that good, right? And so if Russia looked at the agricultural investments and said, if I were to build grain and meat, I could help score prestige, then it would just start building that. And obviously, like, you can tie in whether or not it would make their economy explode or not, but it should be able to understand that, hey, if I utilize this resource, like, let's switch over to Austria. If Austria were playing the game and it was like looking around and saying, hey, you know, right now there's just not a lot of countries that are currently building a lot of coal. We're number 6 in the world, and we're at minus 95. We're almost at 75% on coal, and we have an expand resource industries. So, and a conservative agenda, maintain balance of power. All right, so no dice. We're definitely building coal resources right now, right? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So the behaviors of the AI that Paradox Interactive has right now make absolutely no sense. Just like from like their own internal stated goal. And I think the reason is that they don't care about their prestige, because if they did care about their prestige, 1, they would actually do the thing that this says. And then 2, that would create opportunities for international trade. So let us suppose that you are France and Austria over here with an AI that says, I need to expand resource industries. Coal is really expensive right now. It's pretty obvious that it's going to be really expensive worldwide, because I can look at myself and say I'm the number 6 producer in the world. But that also tells me that, like, if I got any untapped coal mines, like there's a level 20 coal mine over there. That's pretty good. A level 20 coal mine's not a bad thing. There's a level 84. That's a level 84 coal mine. That's a level 44 coal mine. That's 40. That's 48. There's a lot of coal in this country. And so Austria should be able to, at a glance, just know what the coal capacity, because it's public information, right? If it's not public information, if it's an undiscovered resource, it should not know that. But if it's a discovered resource that we know the maximum exploitation of, it should know what the maximum total coal capacity of itself is if it builds all of its coal. And then it can compare that maximum total capacity against other countries. And then it can compare the current rankings of the coal capacities for the other countries. And then it can say, hey, if I were to build this coal right now, would my prestige benefit from it, and my money. And in this case, undoubtedly, finally it's building coal. But where did this plan come from? It's if the plan was to like do weird crazy things with a massive like half-year lag, I don't know if that makes it strong or not. That doesn't sound like it's a good economic behavior. Because what we'd much rather see, is we'd much rather see countries specializing in exporting in exploiting the resources that they currently have. And so what that can do is it can cause an arms race. So I am sure that anyone who has played late into the game has experienced the issue where there's like 100 units of oil in Venezuela or whatever, and the AI has built like 3 oil rigs and then clapped its hands and dusted off its shirt and walked home when it's producing at like 150 a turn, right? When like all it needs to do, because you're exporting all of it, right? You're every single drop of oil that comes out of the ground at some point, you are trying to suck up, right? That's what you're trying to do. That's the economic pull that causes World War One. We come up with any sorts of explanations that we want to about like nationalism or whatever, but if you're looking at the game from the perspective of economic determinism, it's a war for oil even then. Because like think about the main important theaters, like Basra is big deal. This was where the United Kingdom destroyed the Ottoman Empire by allying with Saudi Arabia and no, not Saudi Arabia, the Hashemite dynasty. The Hashemite dynasty. Obviously, they allied with them, and they went on just like a nice little romp, and they destroyed the Ottoman government there and set up shop. And they did it because there's oil here. That's why. And they wanted to make sure that the Ottomans and the Germans did not hold it and could not use it, and they also had Kuwait over here. So maybe that was why World War One broke out. It's because UK wanted oil. That's another explanation of it, right? Almost certainly there were lots of reasons why World War One broke out. Lots of reasons, lots of things break out. But prestige doesn't just come from resources that you extract. It also comes from resources that you make, right? You can get prestige from being the higher producer of textiles in the world. And what you can do is you can look around and you can say, hey, you know what? There's been a resource development war where 2 AI who have very good capacities for silk have identified that they can fight for the prestige generated by silk, and they have both started building silk plantations, sort of like how Egypt stepped into the hole that was created in the international market by the American Civil War. So Egypt was not growing tons and tons and tons of cotton until the American Civil War, but when the American Civil War broke out, all of the countries that were reliant upon cotton from the Confederacy was not happy with the current economic state of things. But the Khedivate in Egypt said, hey, you know what? We've got like one of the most fertile, productive agricultural regions in the world. I mean, just look at this, 20% agriculture throughput, right? This is a big deal. A big deal. It's not everywhere, but you can have some extremely agriculturally productive areas in Egypt, and it's just because of the state modifier. And then you can build a bunch of you'll probably build opium in this game, honestly, but can you not build cotton? There it is. Cotton to help you export it to Europe in the event that the US gets in a civil war, because you can recognize that, all right, the cotton that's here is currently not being traded, and so the prestige that they're generating is going to fluctuate a lot. I might be able to snipe it. And why does any of this matter? Why should the AI care? Convince me that the AI should care from a a flavor perspective? Well, because from a flavor perspective as well as a mechanical perspective, literally the only thing that determines your rank is your prestige, as well as whether or not you have recognized status or not. Recognized status is literally just does Metternich and his band of cronies think that you're cool, or do they think that you're a loser? And if they think you're a loser, then they think you're a loser, and then you're unrecognized, and then your ranks that you have access to are going to be different. And on that, let's just show you why that matters. So Qing is an unrecognized regional power, and that's gonna look different from a normal thing. So we can pop over here. Oh, you're probably unrecognized, aren't you? Yeah, there we go. An unrecognized major power. We're gonna get 750 influence, but more severe diplomatic plays. So you're very fragile. Somebody can really mess you up if you're unrecognized, and so be careful, because people can do diplomatic things to you that you'd really rather they can't. Like, they can puppet you, and that's pretty rough. But if you're not if you're like Sweden, then getting prestige, as I showed in the Kick the Tire Sweden, is like literally the only thing that separates whether or not you can start by immediately attacking Denmark or not. And if you just pick up a couple of art academies, that'll dramatically increase your prestige, get you to a high rank so that you can attack Denmark. But to get back on track, oil starts not being produced. It's not being produced by anything except for whales. That's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's not really enough to do any industry with. It's usually more than enough to meet the heating needs of your pops, but that's about it. Right now, whaling is pretty bad. I think they probably want to generate a couple of ways for buildings to just optionally use oil or not, because whale oil was like one of the reasons that the U.S. wanted to open Japan, because they recognized that this was incredibly prime whaling territory, because this was after we'd like whaled the Atlantic and all of them were dead, because we were doing it for the oil. And there's no reason to do that in this game, and that it breaks the suspension of disbelief. So there should be some ways to like click a method of production on a building and give it whale oil, right? That makes sense. We should be able to do that. That would make people want to build whales. And that would also make the AI want to build whales, for that matter. So that would just allow you to trade for that oil and then use it in your own industry. And by doing that, like if Austria started building a whole bunch of coal and somebody looked around and said, you know what? Nobody is competing for steel right now, and Austria is building a bunch of coal. I want to get some prestige. I think I can compete for steel because I have a bunch of iron. I'm going to import all of this coal that Austria is building. And now we've created a little trade exchange, right? A trade exchange that we've created because the AI has identified that it wants to build up its own prestige, but it has an industrialize strategy. And if it has an industrialized strategy, it should look to trade. It should look to trade, not just stumble upon, but look to trade with countries that are doing expand resource industries, because the countries that are doing expand resource industries should be doing exactly that, not building universities for some reason. Congratulations that they start with less, but they should be extracting more coal by now. It's 1838, maybe 39, but they've not built a lot yet, right? No, they're still at plus 70. That's very low. That's very low. It's very low. What is France doing? France is industrializing. You know, France is doing France things. Like that's I think one of the other things is, if you start with the industrialize strategy, I think you're generally going to end up being stronger, because I think generally industrializing is going to be stronger because it's not limited by the resources that you have access to. Industrialization can get you a lot in terms of creating trade networks, and for that matter, puppet networks, right? It's okay if you're France and you're like, boy, I really need some opium. You know what you do historically, right? Like if you don't, then my recommendation yet again is to be vaguely familiar with the history of your country and vaguely familiar with the direction of your country. And so like Vietnam over here ends up becoming a puppet of France and then becomes annexed. And the reason is multifold, but a contributing economic reason is that it's prime territory for growing opium. It really is, and that's necessary for you in the mid to late game because that is going to impact whether or not you have access to medical supplies for your troops. Because you need opium there. Because you know what? If you're trying to do surgery on somebody, you probably need morphine, and that's just the way this is. That's the way this works, right? That is the way this works. So, all right. What is the AI doing? The AI is trying to combine these things, right? It's trying to combine these things. It's not just trying to identify like construction things, but it's trying to identify these other two, which is why having a country with conservative agenda being so gung-ho on some of these builds seems a little weird. It seems strong. So if we can come up with a narrative as to like why the country is employing a strategy that is leading them to build up the strength of the intelligentsia, because you can see here in the clout, it's going up. It is going up. It is going up. And I personally would expect under a conservative agenda, the opposite of that. I personally would expect a landowner's clout to be going up a little bit under those circumstances. Maybe a petit bourgeoisie. Yeah, I can see petit bourgeoisie. If petit bourgeoisie is going up, then that's fine. Because that also makes sense. But nope, that's going down actually. So yeah, that's surprising, right? So the actions of the country that has identified as itself the conservative agenda, it is increasing the strength of the intelligentsia, decreasing the strength of the industrialists. That's about even. And dramatically slashing the clout of the landowners and the petit bourgeoisie. That's very strange. That's very strange. And I think that might be one of the things that's contributing to everything. Let's go over and check out Great Britain. Like strange behaviors from countries. So here the intelligentsia is flat. That makes sense. Because this is the conservative agenda. And there they are, the petit bourgeoisie. There they are. We've got the petit bourgeoisie on the rise in the UK, and I think that makes sense because it is the conservative agenda after all, right? There it is, and they have economic imperialism and industrialization. So what are they building? Well, thank God they're building construction sectors. Well, this is a really unacceptable amount of money for them to be running right now. Because they are above their gold reserve cap. If you're above your gold reserve cap, then you're just like throwing money on the ground. It's awful and it's very bad. There's no reason for them to be taxing this much. They could be taxing this much very easily. They're just taking money away from their pops to throw it away. And in that for that matter, if they had this is just a pro tip, if they had a liberal agenda and they wanted to do something, then what they could do is they could, in order to drive up the strength of the intelligentsia, they could increase taxes, but they could also increase government wages. And if they were increasing their government wages, they're giving more money to the bureaucrats and to the academics and to the people who work in jobs that naturally attract them to the intelligentsia. You can give money to the intelligentsia that way. So you should see a lot of the countries that have a liberal agenda doing that. Mahmoud, my brother, why do you have a conservative agenda? This makes no sense. This makes no sense. The Paradox came so close to describing Mahmoud the second correctly, because apparently at one point he was a landowner slaver. There's a picture of that in the Discord, in the official Vicky 3 Discord, which is not an accurate representation. Now he's an intelligentsia moderate, which seems like a very fine option to represent him. I suggested personally that he be armed forces reformer, Reason being that I think Armed Forces Reformer both represents his successes better, as well as differentiates him from his son, Abdul Majid. Because Abdul Majid, I'm pretty sure, is also just intelligentsia moderate. Yeah. So, like, alright, that's cute and neat, but they're the same now, which I guess is whatever. But, like, why is a moderate intelligentsia ruler, why does he have a conservative agenda, and what does it look like? The clout's flat, a little down for the local governors, a little up for rural folk. And this is the time period where the Tanzimat is supposed to be coming in, by the way. So maybe the conservative agenda here is to actually draw him to the petty bourgeoisie, because when we do the Ottoman playthrough, which I'm probably going to do an Ottoman playthrough immediately after the American one, there are a couple of playthroughs that I want to do, and the American one's one of them. Ottoman is another one. I want to do a Kome run, but I think I might just do like a proof of concept Kome run next, and then just tell people how to accomplish it in game without using console, because I think it really is just an RNG thing, and I don't think it's that important if what we're doing is controlled by RNG or controlled by the console, because if you can describe it as, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then done, speed run, then I think it works fine. So AI, I think it's a great idea to have these strategies here. I don't think that they really know what they're doing. I think that rather than role-playing like nations that lived in the 19th century, I think the actions that they take are so unbelievably black box, like not even understandable, that they don't even really feel alive anymore. They feel less like Austria-Hungary in the 19th century with what they're doing right now, which is apparently absolutely nothing. Like, why are they building nothing? What is happening? Why are they building nothing? That's insane. Now they're building naval bases in Istria. What is the thought process here? I am very amused. This might also be fun. I might do a little bit of just like AI watching. We'll open that as another channel. Actually, I want to do that with you. I want to do that with you, chat. I want to watch AI do weird and crazy things. Because some of the AI do really weird and crazy things. Like here, the Ottoman Empire has declared war on Egypt and is getting swallowed alive because the Ottomans start with irregular infantry for some reason. So they don't start with line infantry, I don't think, and then they have to pick up Napoleonic warfare. Probably they want to pick up shell guns too before they fight Egypt, and that means that of course they're going to need percussion caps. So they've got a lot of military research that they need to get done. Whereas Egypt, on the other hand, if we just like let's just control click to go over here. I've gotten off topic. Chat. The AI, I think the AI really just needs to pay more attention to prestige, because if it pays more attention to prestige, then it'll specialize its economy based off of these things in the things that it can personally identify with the information that it has available to it, the line that it should take. I don't think it's going to be that hard. I think personally, between you and me, and you know, there's crackpot theory behind AI for everything. And again, I apologize, and I want to stress this, and I really feel like if anbeeld wants to say anything about AI, and I would love to hear from him. Actually, I would love to have a Discord conversation with him about the way that he's built his AI. If this channel does well, I might literally see if he wants to hop in on a Discord channel with me, because I want to hear about how he built it. I want to hear about his thought process. And I hope that you want to hear about it too. And maybe somebody else has interviewed him. And if they have, then give me the link. I want to hear that. Even if I'm not the person who interviews him, I want to hear his thoughts, because he's interacted with this machine and done quite well for himself. So I want to know what he thinks. That's what I want to know. I want to know what he thinks. And maybe, ooh, I tell you what, maybe that'll be our gift to each other, chat. If you guys help me reach monetization, I will never mention it again, and I will personally reach out to him, and I'll feel like less of a slime ball asking him to get on a Discord chat, because I actually would have a channel by then, hopefully, with your help. Okay, that's AI. Bye.